Second violins, Jonathan Rees, Di Manuel, Sonia Slaney, Perry Montague Mason, great name, um, Miffy Hirsch, even better name, Jeremy.
Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. It's Andy, it's John, and it is time for music. John, what are you going to have me listen to today, buddy?
So we're going back to a band called Spiritualized.
Ah, yes, Spiritualized. Let's come together or congregate and check out more from this very interesting band. What is the track?
The track is On Fire.
Okay. All right, on fire. Cool. Well, this is not a live experience like the last one, right? Okay, cool. Interesting. All right. Well, I had a lot of fun giving that last one a go, and just all the players involved to make that sound. So yeah, I'm kind of geared up to hear what this sounds like. If I'm going to get shades of that, not gonna lie, I sort of hope I do. So yeah, let me go out and check On Fire, and I will come back and let you know what I think. Kind of reminds me of Peanuts. Hold on. Did I just catch an Icarus reference? These guys always overstating things a bit here. This is only my, I think, second listen to Spiritualized. They definitely have a sound that they're going for, and the band's name is kind of apropos to the genres that they kind of tip their hat to. At least in the two tracks that I've heard, I don't want to boldly apply that my experience to their entire discography and all of their songs, but the ones that I've heard have this rollicking gospel kind of sound to them. Interesting. It starts off, I'm instantly thinking of Schrader, or whatever the guy's name is from Peanuts, the Charles Schultz character, just hammering away on his keys, and then it kind of in comes this like buzz and fuzz from synth and guitar, and we're off with this rollicking pace thereafter, and it opens up with this, let's see how high we can fly before the sun melts the wax on our wings. I like that line. Again, this is odd. I'm 2 for 2 here, where I'm hearing lyrics in the songs John's given me, and it instantly makes me think of a song that I'm quite a fan of. But there's a song by the Deer Hunter, "The Lake and the River," where Casey Crescendo says, "Euphorically floating upon wax wings, where is the sun?" And I think in Casey's instance, he's kind of alluding to, this feeling of joy, but also the lingering notion that a shoe is about to drop, that it's going to be short lived. Whereas this lyric by your man in Spiritualized feels like this pressing and pushing of the envelope. Let's see how far we can go before, something happens, which is interesting. Not completely, alien to one another, but a little bit different. And, any allusion to mythology in my lyrics is always going to kind of catch my attention. So yeah, I'm digging this so far. Let's see where we go from here. Oh, I love that. The choir.
Let's see how fast we can live before our time starts slowing us down. Just how much further we go before we get our place in the ground. I'm on fire. There's no water for the flames, and I'm alive. With no one but myself to blame, I'm free to do just what I wanna do, and I'm blind. All the faith has had me
All right, while things are transitioning here, and it sounds like they're pulling back a little bit. God, there's a lot in this that sounds lovely. I remember when we did these guys the last time, it was a live performance. This time it's not, but there's something that I don't need to be proven with this to know that it has in common with that live performance, and that is there are a lot of musicians and instruments working together to create this sound. It was very well illustrated in that video, but there are so many different instruments here, and on top of that, you've got these, accompanying female vocalists. I'd say no less than 3 of them are providing those toot 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 toos toot toot toot, and it's great. It definitely has more than a shot of gospel in this cocktail, and I'm here for it. It sounds great.
Come on, my love. Come on, my child. Let heaven flow into your soul. Let it come on down. Ease away pain. You won't feel that way again. Come on, my love. Come on, my child.
Yeah. Well, you can't have a song like this that doesn't have plenty of that kind of rattle or tambourine sound. I immediately am taken to scenes of tons of scenes where Sister Act comes to mind. Any of these songs where you've got someone in robe, going hard on the tambourine. That's what I envision. Yeah, this is lovely. It's just this modern rock, but revivalist type sound, where it has this holy rolling effect to it. which at this point, 2 songs into it, come together and now On Fire would appear that is not a bug or a defect, but rather it's a feature of their sound. I would be interested to hear more of their stuff, but it certainly sounds like that's something that they definitely pull from when they're putting together their works. All this repeats of, let it come on down and into your soul, while there's just these keys bouncing all over the place and horn work and all this stuff. It's just beautiful, but it's certainly taking me to a certain genre. I think that's kind of like undeniable. Also, these references like into your soul and just hearing it with this gospel choir type sound, it's hard to ignore that, right? You know what I mean? So this sounds like it's part of their, uniquity, this adding shots of these types of gospel sounds to their mix, but I like it a lot. It sounds great, and as great as this version was recorded, and the live performance, part of the awe in watching that is seeing all of those people expertly pull off their jobs together in that collective. Everyone's picking up their side of the couch. It all sounds great together, and it's so much fun to watch that many people create such a full, rich sound, kind of free of flaw. That's really an impressive task. I mean, we always talk about all 3 pieces. It's great, and that is awesome. 3 pieces that pull off big sounds is really impressive, and you always got to kind of tip your hat. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, it's really amazing to watch like 13 people just tear the house down, doing a bunch of different shit together and making it all sound lovely with no one out of step. So I can appreciate kind of, both, the impressiveness of just 3 individuals pulling off a very large sound that sounds, well constructed and multifaceted, and then just more is better kind of sound that you get from, a band like Spiritualized. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. There's going to be a lot that John's going to have to fill me in on as far as like when this came out compared to Come Together, and who the actors were on this track. It sounds like it's a lot of them. Yeah, so let's get back to the man and see what he has to say.
Paddy Pants Down. He's back. So you've had to listen to On Fire by Spiritualized. What do you reckon?
Well, I'm glad I took a fire extinguisher with me because this song was on fire, literally and figuratively. Yeah, so it's clearly early days when I'm just pressed play here, and only a few seconds into the song, but given that high bouncy motif on the keys, I'm instantly taken back to my youth and the opening salvo to just about every one of my Peanuts VHS that I owned, with the character Schrader tickling the ivories. But this little taste of nostalgia is quickly quashed as synth buzz and guitar fuzz get injected into the mix, giving the song and its sound a new direction and aesthetic far removed from the halcyon days watching the animated adventures created by Charles Schultz. The drums drop in along with the rest of the instruments, and we are off to a rollicking pace. The bass rolls beneath the surface as the singer, forgive me for not recalling his name, begins to deliver the opening lines. And right out of the gate, we get treated to this nice little Icarus reference. This is how high we can fly before the sun melts the wax in our wings. Let's see how fast we can go before our eyes can't follow the road. This doesn't happen often, but this is now 2 tracks in a row where a lyric or a blurb from the song you've given me conjures up the memory or thought of a song that I'm familiar with that does something similar. So in this track, The Lake and the River by the Deer Hunter, Casey Crescenzo, delivers this line, euphorically floating upon wax wings, where is the sun? And though I think Casey was trying to illustrate this idea of a shoe dropping amidst this feeling of likely temporary joy or euphoria, in the case of this track, I suspect that the allusions to the Greek myth is to illustrate sort of the testing of the limits of something or pushing the envelope, so to speak, like playing with fire. So I believe I'm catching these bits of slightly stretched out horn notes in the mix as well. And it's at this point that I'm recognizing just how much music is actually crammed into this song. It's quite layered, which is very similar to the now it was a lot easier to discern, identify, and quantify the amount of music and musicians that were, taking part in the in Come Together when you had me check that out. Now, I'm glad I have it as a reference point because listening to this, I'm able to sort of visualize the amount of work and workers that went into creating this sound. That seems to be part of their calling card. Among other things that I found similar or akin to Come Together when listening to this song, and I will get into that a bit more. As it progresses, I catch other vocals and harmonies that are provided, and it definitely sounds like we might have some female group vocalists in the mix, and they sound fantastic with their do-do-do-do-do's stretched out, much like the O on my hat, this sort of echo effect where it's ooh, and just sounds fabulous. I think my suspicion from earlier about the meaning of the track are all but confirmed when I hear the slight snarl of the lead singer deliver a line about seeing how fast we can go before time slows us down, and something about how much further we can go before we find our place in the ground. Again, this, boundary pushing sort of, motif that they've got going on lyrically. We get treated to another chorus where there are more allusions to the titular line and our narrator being on fire, and more of those terrific female group vocals. For just a moment, everything cuts out, save for a resonant note and some rolling tom work by the drummer. And the singer begins to deliver lines over top this bit, and then the other musicians join back in, underscored by some lovely higher registered flutters on the keys. The vocals become fuller as it becomes a group effort, all over top this larger than life sound all the musicians are working to create. And so this begins to take on the aesthetic of some holy rolling revival music. Something that not only their name suggests, but also stands out as a bit of a pattern I'm noticing in their sound. This sound appears to be a feature rather than a bug. They all repeat the lines, let it come on down and into your soul. And even that line alone conjures thoughts of revivalist, Southern Baptist kind of, approach to celebrating the Lord, if you will. So I'm loving this. So this repeats several times, and the song continues with this full sound, this kind of, again, revivalist approach, keys a bouncing and horns a blasting, and then the music stops, save for the shadow of its resonance and some classic tambourine shaking or some sort of rattle, something that adds that effect. I want to say tambourine because I can't think of revivalist music without the person in the road going.
It's gotta be.
Yeah. It's gotta be. I refuse to believe it's anything else. So yeah, and more of the repeating of that line into your soul. But then as the other instruments die down, leaving just the vocalist, in comes this interesting bit of synth noodling for a couple repetitions before the song resolves on the tambourine or rattle shake, I doubt it, bringing the song to a safe landing, wax wings and all. So, yeah, this song had very similar energy to Come Together, as I mentioned earlier, the kind of energy and sound that helps identify a band and their uniquity. And like my experience listening to Come Together and watching the live performance thereof, I had a lot of fun giving this track a spin as well. I really like that they've kind of cornered the market on creating modern music based off this something that to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, seems so divorced from like geographically for like the sound that they're tapping into, the Southern American. Now I don't know if there's something similar to that sound that y'all have. Maybe you do, and it's just my ignorance I'm underscoring here. But when I hear that sound, I can't help but think of like, Southern black churches, Southern, Baptists, these real evangelical but musical ways of expressing worship and praise to the Almighty. So yeah, I thought it was great and fun, and a bit different. I mean, I've heard similar things, but this is not like the world is saturated in this kind of sound, especially nowadays. So yeah, tell me a bit more about this track, and if I'm kind of right in assuming that this is their brand, or at least on brand for them.
Yeah, kind of. I will say that the orchestration, which this isn't a great example of, is the thing he explores and goes down throughout his career more than the gospel sound.
Uh-huh.
But it's a lovely touch on quite on a few, and the previous one and this one in particular. So yeah, yeah. So this comes from the album Let It Come Down, their fourth studio album, released in 2001. So it came after Ladies and Gentlemen, We're Floating in Space, which 1997 was considered to be one of the best albums of the decade. Adulations coming out as ear rolls. It took him, Jason Pierce, Spaceman, the lead singer, guitarist, and sole constant member. And the reason why is, I think I touched on this in the last episode. The rest of the band complained about wages and conditions and all sorts of things. So we got them to re-sign all their contracts, and then he fired them legally.
So
this
there's
is
a
a
few
complete.
characters you've introduced me to this like the sort of Marky Smith was kind of like that, prickly about his fellow musicians, if I recall
I mean,
correctly.
he didn't bother with contracts. He just he tried to punch them and then kicked them out. Speed off in the van without them. But yeah, I mean, this guy is famously, massive addict. But yeah, not smart them. So I can't believe that. Anyway, it took him 4 years to write this album, to write, perform, produce, and to release it. So this album, each time you read a review, they pick a different number. But the most constant number is the 115 session musicians, including orchestra and the London Community Gospel Choir.
Jesus.
The album's sound is described as art rock, symphonic rock, space rock, and gospel. There's other sort of examples of those different styles within the album. This one is kind of a bit sort of, I don't know, rocky and gospel mainly, I'd say. So the album was released on CD. I thought I had it. It must be in storage in the loft. But that picture there, if you got the special CD version, which I had, is a big fat sort of plastic one, and that image is carved in relief inside into the plastic. It's one of those, when you turn and look at it, it looks like it's bulging out, or
Right.
it's one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's the cover image is the wife of the artist. I don't know why he picked that. I thought it was a weird image to have for that, but anyway.
Yeah. It almost
And
looks
the
like
official term,
like those cameos, but if you
yeah,
panned around and saw it from the face rather than from that side profile that you often
yeah.
see with cameos.
The technical term is debossed in the case material. So there you go.
There we go. Okay.
It's weird, this album, because a lot of people rave about it and a lot of people dismiss it. And the success of the previous album, I think, has a lot to do with it. So Q Magazine listed Let It Come Down as one of the best 50 albums of 2001. Paste ranked the album number 18 on its list of best albums of 2001. And The Independent ranked the album number 11 on its list of 20 most underrated albums ever. Let It Come Down is the band's most successful album on the UK album charts, where it peaks at number 3. So personnel: Jason Pierce, also known as Spaceman. These, I think, are taken from the album notes. And so they actually mention brand names of the instruments they're playing, which is quite interesting. So Fender Thin Line, Fender Jaguar, um, Epiphone Olympic, Vox Starstreamer 12, Martin Acoustic Banjo, just Vox standard banjo apparently, Vox Continental, Farfisa Compact Piano Harmonica Vocals. Timothy Lewis, known as Thigh Paul Sandra, who played Hammond C3, Vox Continental, Farfisa Compact, VK7, Kurzweil K2000, Mini Moog, Fender Rhodes, piano. Doggan Foster doesn't have a nickname, but with a first name like Doggan, he doesn't need one. Gibson Les Paul Gold Top, Gibson Les Paul Custom, Fender Telecaster, Vox Bulldog, Martin Acoustic and Harmonica. John Coxon, Fender Telecaster, Fender Jaguar, Gibson Firebird, Vox Continental, Farfisa Compact, Piano, Juno 106, Martin Acoustic. Martin Skellard, Fender Jazz Bass, Fender Music Master, Fender Bass 6, Burns Bass, Fender Telecaster, Banjo, Piano. Tom Edwards, vibraphone, marimba, timpani, tubular bells, percussion. Kevin Bales, Gretsch drum kit, and Raymond Dickety, soprano and baritone saxophone. Then there's also
nothing if not thorough in listing the instrumentation.
Yeah. Wait for it. We're not even a tenth of the way through. So, additional musicians. I think, well, I'm never going to do this again. So, Pete Wyman, saxophones, clarinet. Mimi Parker, vocals. Chris Clark, piano. David O'Carroll, tuba. Ben Edwards, trumpet. Nick Swart, trumpet. James Adams, trombone. Tamar Osborne, saxophone, clarinet. David Temple, saxophone, clarinet. First violins. Edmund Cox, leader. Kathy Thompson, Jackie Shave. Everton Nelson, Patrick Kiernan, Steve Morrison, Humphreys, Christina Emmanuel, Lauren Mahuish. Second violins, Jonathan Rees, Di Manuel, Sonia Slaney, Perry Montague Mason, great name, Miffy Hirsch, even better name, Jeremy Morris, and Morphy. Viola, Robert Chase, Philip Jukes, Bruce White, Kate Musker, cello, David Daniels, Tony Pleat, Kathy Giles, Jonathan Tunnell. Double bass, Mary Scuddy, Diane Clark. Cor anglais, Jane Marshall. Bassoon, Gavin McNaughton, Celia Birkinshaw. French horn, Hugh Seenan, Richard Bissell, Nigel Black, Paul Garden, Dave Lee, Martin Owen, Richard Ashton, Michaela Betts. Trumpet, Andy Crowley. Ian Balmain, Bob Farley, Paul Archibald, Paul Bediston. Trombone, Graham Lee, Colin Sheen, Peter Davis, Mike Hex, and Roger Brenner. Brass trombone, David Stewart, Roger Argente, Andy Wadicor. Flute / alto flute and bass flute, Dave Heath and Andy Finden. Contrabass flute, Andy Finden again. Oboe, Chris Cowie and Margaret Tyndall. Clarinet, Anthony Pike, Richard Addison. Bass clarinet, David Fust. Harp, Helen Tunstall. We do have a number of additional vocalists as well. Nigel Snort, countertenor. Emma Parland, alto. Sarah Iden, soprano. Simon Grant, bass. Andrew Bursher, tenor. Michael Dorr, bass. Heather Cairncross, alto. Andrew Gray, tenor. Jacqueline Barron, soprano. Raquel Weston, alto. And Gerald O'Bean, tenor. And of course, the London Community Gospel Choir. Wendy Rose, Wayne Hernandez, Jenny Graham, Donovan Keith Lawrence, Vanessa Mead, Jenny Latouche, that's a great name, Aaron Paul Sokol, Travis J. Cole, Vimbai Shire, Samantha Smith, Irene Forrester, Carmen Smart, Michael John Douglas, Jessette Barrett, and the choir director was Daniel Thomas. And that's all the people I could find. I'm sure there were more, but
that's it. No, seriously, I like everything was pointing in the direction of this was definitely, it takes a village approach to songwriting, and you just validated my suspicion of that with that goddamn laundry list of individuals. It's amazing. What's crazy is like, how does this dude, one, he seems like a prickly person, so how does he get this many people to commit to a project and see his vision when it could be seemingly an asshole? And then two, the who's financing this? Is it him? Is it coming from the label? I mean, it's got to cost a lot. It's like the equivalent of a big budget movie. You know what I mean? This is the Ocean's 11 of, albums as far as the amount of people that have to, play a role. It's incredible.
Think, and I could be wrong on this, but I think sort of hiring orchestras is relatively cheap. They don't they
Yeah.
don't cost a fortune. They're not relatively underpaid. I could be completely wrong on this, but I've got this impression that they're not paid as much as they should be, is what I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I mean, yes, I mean him, and he develops the sound even more throughout the rest of the albums. But he's just a stoner kid, who was in a band, Spaceman 3, and to be able to do this, I think it's incredible. You're right,
Yeah.
putting it all together as something else. You have to have a great vision to be able to do
Yeah,
this.
yeah, and a long view too, like
Yeah,
to see it all the way through.
because you don't want to be pissing around saying, "Can we try that again?" But this time more bassoon. I mean,
Yeah,
no, I
yeah,
mean that would be costly. Yeah, but
exactly.
yeah. Anyway, Stereo Gum. When ranking, they did an article ranking the spiritualized albums. Not surprising, ladies and gentlemen, Floating Space is number one, but they put Let It All Come Down at number three, and said Pierce crafted an album that was pure bombast in a way that was slightly new for Spiritualized. There are almost no remnants of the noisiness of free jazz improvs of other Spiritualized outings prior to this. Instead, the stuff is big in a specterized wall of sound kind of way. Pierce's increasing focus on gospel taking him back to the forms of big orchestral pop songs from the 60s and 70s. The album is pure bombast, but this time it's all swelling strings and movie soundtrack, chords and timpani. You can't really tell if the resulting excess is religious or decadent. And maybe that's what makes it such a rewarding listen. Spiritualized is always most interesting when the profane and sublime are crashing together. Drowned in Sound said, Let It Come Down begins with the almost feel good, chill out rock stomper On Fire. Let heaven flow into your soul, Pierce and his 100-strong orchestra pleads us. It's apparent that Spiritualized have decided to follow up one of the best records of the 90s with an album that treads similar ground. Here, Spiritualized have delivered an undisputed lesson in how to follow up a classic. They've done it with a close to perfect record. Stick it on your sound system, headphones on, volume up, eyes shut, and float away into another land. Really interesting comments here from NME. They say, unlike Radiohead, who responded to OK Computer being heralded as the best record of their career by retreating into avant-garde electronica, Pierce has confronted the challenge of bettering Ladies and Gentlemen head on. Let It Come Down isn't the sound of a band touched by genius. It's the sound of one born with it. This is music as it's meant to be, raw, colossal, and awe-inspiring. No wonder everything else just pales into comparison. And Pitchfork, well, I was going to include a review, but after 4 paragraphs, they hadn't mentioned the band or the album. It was just some wanky writer just writing about himself. So I thought, fuck it.
Oh,
Anyway,
over at Pitchfork?
yeah, imagine
Yeah.
that. Unbelievably stupid.
Yeah.
That's why I hate them so much. Anyway, lyrics. Very simple. Let's see how high we can fly before the sun melts the wax in our wings. Let's see how fast we can go before our eyes can't follow the road. And I'm on fire. There's no water for the flames. And I'm alive with no one but myself to blame. And I'm proud that I've never fallen down. And I've learned how the truth is tragedy now. Let's see how fast we can live until our time starts slowing us down. Just how much further we go before we get our place in the ground. I'm on fire, there's no water for the flames, and I'm alive with no one but myself to blame. And I'm free to do what I want to do, and I burn all the faith has had me denied. Come on, my love. Come on, my child. Let heaven flow into your soul. Let it come on down, ease away the pain. You won't feel that way again. Come on, my love. Come on, my child. Let heaven flow into your soul. Let it come on down. Let it come on down. Let it come on down. Let it come on down into your soul, into your soul, into your soul, into your soul. Repeats until faded out about another 420 times. Yeah, I think this is an awesome opening track, and it's a real Bobby Dazzler. Just slaps you across the face with a wet kipper. But it has all those lovely touches that you said. There's some gospel stuff to it. It's joyous. It's not overly religious either. I really love gospel music. I'm not so keen on the message, but the techniques and everything. You know, that documentary about Aretha Franklin doing her gospel stuff is just incredible. This album is big. And I guess for some people it probably is a bit too much. But it's interesting. There's certain songs in there. There's songs in there called Outside, another one called The 12 Steps, another one called The Straight and Narrow, another one, I Didn't Mean to Hurt You. And they're saying, oh, this is him getting his shit together and being straight. You know, he's got clean. And he said, no, I'm still a fucking idiot addict, drinker, you know.
Maybe just wishful thinking.
There's an awesome track called Won't Get to Heaven, brackets, State I'm In, which is a 10-minute romper. I think I will pick another one from this album for you at a fairly soonish date that's a bit more heavy on the orchestration than the gospel. So you get the other side of it with the big sound, because honestly, some of it is proper film score. You know, the timpanis come in and the choral glare. It just sounds amazing. And he has got a lovely touch, you know, in terms of writing and arranging. It is impressive. But for now, that's what you've got. So, yeah.
Thanks for listening. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a special talent, I think. So I'll wrap things up. Thanks again for listening to this, Andy.
Thank you.
Folks out there, tell us what you think. Please drop some comments about this track. About this album, is it underappreciated? I think it's a good one. But we'd love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed already, well, you know where you're going if you don't subscribe. So save your place on a fluffy white cloud by subscribing today. We do appreciate everybody who does support the channel. That being said, thanks so much for watching. And we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.